Do you have a sustainable community? Do you have a healthy community of men and people that are helping you along your journey through manhood and through fatherhood or towards fatherhood? Do you have a community? Do you have a healthy community of men you could say, yes, I can tell them anything. I can go to that group and speak to that community of men I have and receive the right support. I can go to the community of men and be able to pour in positively to the lives of those around me.
You're listening to Journey to Fatherhood, a podcast that inspires and equips men to becoming more intentional and feeling more supported on the journey to fatherhood. Why wait to become a father before learning how to be a good one? My name is Chinedum, a young man also on his journey with a desire to help men become great fathers despite their past personal experiences. I'll be sitting with different guests to bring you great value, sharing their knowledge and their experiences as we all embark on this amazing journey. This podcast, though targeted towards men, ladies, you will also gain great value from the conversations. Now, without further ado, let the journey begin.
Hello and welcome to Journey to Fatherhood podcast. It's your host here, Chinedum, and I want to welcome you if this is your first time listening in. Yes, it's not just for guys, but it's about guys, if that makes sense. The podcast is not just for men, but it's about men in the sense that we go through different stages of people's lives. We have guests here. Sometimes I talk about my personal experience and my personal journey. And the aim of the podcast is to really help men along their journey, because I found out, like I said in the very first episode, and if you haven't checked that out to get more idea about what this is all about, make sure you check out the very first episode titled Why Fatherhood. So going on with that, it's the reason and the purpose for this podcast is to create a platform where men can come and address real issues that they're going through, not just waiting till they become fathers to then try and be the best fathers they could be, but learning along the way by healing with any childhood traumas, addressing that, talking about the struggles they went through, breaking down toxic masculinity, and so much more that we do on this platform. So it is with great pleasure that I would like to welcome you. If this is your first time, if you're a returning listener or viewer, thank you very much for staying tuned in. It's an amazing time to be with you. And yeah, let's dig in. So yes, welcome back. I wanted to really tackle this issue of community because I believe that we're growing in our community that we have with a podcast of viewers and listeners, where people are now getting to understand and ask questions based on issues that have been raised on the call, on the episodes. And it brings me great delight. And this is why I wanted to really address today's topic of community. So last week Saturday, during the weekend, I was invited to a fundraising event. Now, the gentleman that organized the fundraising event, his name is Dr. Lord Michael of Hastings. Now, in the UK, he's part of Parliament. If you're listening from abroad, you can check him up. Dr. Michael of Hastings. Dr. Michael of Hastings. Hopefully one of these days we might have him on. But back to the point, he runs a group, or he leads a group of hundreds of men called Men of Purpose Foundation. That's Men of Purpose Foundation. And they have these regular meetings where their aim is to create a platform, a community where men can come together to address issues and also be able to help each other. So when I went to the fundraising event, I went with one of my mentees. And when we got there, I was so impressed and so delighted to see how many people he's impacted directly or indirectly. I was sitting down and speaking to some guys that said that they've been following him, and it was an inspiration to see someone of their color, someone of their stature, someone that they could relate to in such a high place. And he's a chancellor of a very reputable university. And all of this got me just thinking to myself, just imagine how many lives can be changed by one man pouring to another person selflessly. And that was the main thing that kept on being repeated, where when I asked everyone what their encounter has been with him, what the experience has been like with him, they said he's a very selfless guy. and he aims to just build you up because he wants to support you and help you. And it got me thinking, in a community of men, just imagine a community of men where everyone genuinely wanted to see the best for the other person, where you connect them with a context that you have to help them, whether it's through career, relationships, whatever it may be, being selfless as men and being unapologetic about it, where you don't care. It's the higher you rise in your goals or your career or your social status doesn't diminish or stop you from being that caring person. And it really sunk in, because with every episode, with every guest that we've had on the podcast, there's always the question of who helped you become who you are, what kind of encounters and what kind of friendships or just community did you have growing up. And some people, when you really look at it, a lot of people and a lot of men out there don't have the right community. You think about some of the young people, some of the speakers we had that came on and talked about how they were surrounded by the wrong influence growing up, but they just happened to be lucky enough to make the switch, or someone else came into their life and helped them turn around. Now, I'm an absolute believer of encouraging healthy, replicable communities. Now, how do you develop that? So I could use the example of the fundraising event I went to on Saturday and say, okay, this is, just make sure you have someone that really wants to, that has the resources, that has the contacts, and make it networking. But it goes beyond networking, because as a community, what a community seeks to do is help nurture one another. Now, what I found so amazing, and I hope he's listening to this, what I found so amazing is the concept of, going back again, Men of Purpose Foundation. Please make sure you check them out. Men of Purpose Foundation, one of their key goals is to create, they have a pot or some sort of, they have fundraising events, and they also place it in their platforms where people are aware that they're trying to raise money. And what they do with that money is they raise money to support any man in the group, in the Men of Purpose Foundation, that may be struggling, the Men of Purpose group. So they generally see, for example, if someone's struggling with paying rent, they have some money and resources to help them get their rent paid. Or whether it's someone's out of job and out of employment and just doesn't have support, financial support, or whatever it may be, maybe someone needs to get into this sector, they utilize that community, they utilize the resources they have within, whilst also encouraging each other in their manhood journey, in their journey to manhood, through manhood to fatherhood. I was smiling when I saw some of them bring their kids, and you just hear that some of them have known Dr. Michael Hastings, Lord Michael Hastings. They've known him for, some of them, up to 7-8 years. And you look at you think of the amazing stories that they have of how he's impacted them one way or another, through an advice, through opening another door for them. And it warms my heart to see that there are genuinely men out there that recognize the importance of community. And now Lord Michael of Hastings, he doesn't have to do all the operations. People within the community, because they see the value of having the right male figure, male role models around you, they replicate that, in a sense that they are so filled in themselves that they've received so much support that they just feel happy to help. You have some bright young men that are mentoring other young kids, that are mentoring each other, supporting each other. This is what we need as a community of growing, a continuous growing community of men. So you, as a guy, you and your male friends, listen, start with the community that you have. Whether it's resources, where, okay, let's say, that this is one thing that really shocks me sometimes when I see a group of guys that are friends. Someone could be struggling with an area, but even though there's someone within that circle to deal or address that, the support is not being received, out of two different reasons. Most of the time it's because one of the party hasn't asked for help. So the person that's struggling, and you've got a group of guys that are friends, and one person is struggling in an area, but they don't want to speak up because they feel there will be a burden to their community, to their group of friends. Now, this is a twisted mentality that also spirals into so many aspects of life. And we need to tackle it. Where your group of friends, your inner circle, that may be, whatever that may be, or whatever that may look like, of guys, your inner circle of guys should be able to genuinely know how you're doing. Genuinely know how you do it. And you should be comfortable enough to ask for help when you need help. Because that's what shifts people suffering in silence to receiving support in open or even in private. Because when we start to foster these communities, this is where we have healthy men that, okay, know that if I'm dealing with this, if I'm struggling here, I could turn to this brother of mine. And it doesn't always have to be financially. It could literally be that you're suffering from a certain addiction, or you're dealing with some emotional problems that backdate whilst you're growing up as a child, being able to open up. And the second reason, the first reason being that the guys may not be willing to say what they're going through. The second reason may be maybe the circle of friends they have is not conducive, or is not actually nurturing. They don't feel comfortable because of the nature of the circle of friends they have. So those two areas can smoothly be, they could easily be reversed to positive, where because of the community that you see people generally guys being comfortable with being vulnerable and being supportive and lifting each other up, will encourage other guys to feel, okay, do you know what? I feel absolutely confident to share this with them. I feel confident to seek help in this area. Because then we no longer end up demonizing seeking help. Because this is an area we need to really, really keep on pressing on, talking about the importance of community. The importance of community. I remember an African proverb when I was working for a charity organization for a year. There was this African proverb they always had in the office, somewhere in the office. I don't remember exactly the person that made the quote, but it says, it takes a village to raise a child. It's an African proverb, anonymous. It takes a village to raise a child. Now, whilst I'm not talking about, a general community, I'm talking about, let's start with the guys, the group of guys, the guys that have a wonderful inner circle of friends amongst themselves. They could really, really help nurture each other. A few weeks ago, one of the speakers we had, he said that what actually helped him was his group of friends. That he didn't have a father role model, but he was raised by his friends. Because he had a strong unit of men that he could trust, a strong unit of men that could support him along the way. And this is why I encourage us to seek a better understanding of each other, of your friends, your male friends, and most importantly, be willing to support each other. Sometimes it's not about having so many resources, but being willing. The willingness can cause you to then find the resources. Now, going back to the general idea of it takes a village to raise a child. Dear men, a spoken letter to you. You see that area that you're struggling with dealing with when it comes to raising a child. Maybe you don't know how to be transparent in terms of emotions, and you're struggling in that area, but you know that your child needs it. Speak to another guy. Even feel free to do some research. Feel free to find a way, because a lot of men tend to repeat the same cycles they told themselves they'll never do. Some men didn't receive emotional care when they were growing up from their fathers. And then because they haven't really addressed or talked about it or sought out help, they end up repeating the same things because they don't want to admit that they are struggling in an area. Whether it's financially, whether it's whatever area it may be. It is so important that we create and foster a community of people that genuinely love each other, that genuinely care for each other. Because I believe this is one of the main factors why men don't open up, why men don't get the right help, because sometimes they don't even have that community. It starts with you. That community starts with you. And then bring another person, support another person, help another person. You see that it starts to grow. It starts to grow. It starts to grow. So that way, when you and your friends are all fathers eventually and you have kids, you're also able to support each other because you all know that you're going through the same things. Whether, even if you're not fathers right now, you can support each other in the group that you're in. Being able to cry in front of each other and saying, bro, I'm going through this. I'm struggling here. Or even a community that celebrates success together. It doesn't always have to be the dark and doom. It could be people that allow you to really enjoy the progress you're making. Because as men, I believe a lot, not just men, but a lot of times we have aspirations and goals that because we haven't quite hit it, we don't celebrate the little milestones. And we find ourselves easily getting caught up in ourselves and just saying, do you know what? I'm gonna, I'll just keep grinding and grinding, which is amazing. So you're gonna keep grinding away in the work you're doing. But when do you get to celebrate those mini milestones? Because if care's not taken, this could be something that will be translated into your personal life. The podcast is called Journey to Fatherhood. So eventually everything always ties up to what are you going to be carrying on to the next generation? What are you going to be taking in, or what are you going to be showing the next generation? This is the time for us to keep making the changes that we need to make. This is the time for us to keep being the best versions of ourselves. A community brings about unity. So for me, this is just something I'm thinking about. I don't know how the word community was brought about, but in my head, I just think of common unity, a common goal that is united, a group of people that have a common goal and united. Community, a group of people that have a common goal and united. The common goal could very well be to be the best men you could be. And that when you come in unity, being the best versions of yourself, best man you could be very well you being able to be vulnerable. You guys are united in holding each other up through those tough times, pouring into each other positively. That is community. That is what we need more of. And that is what should be celebrated more of. We need to get to a point where guys can comfortably come around fellow brothers, fellow guys, irrespective of race or background, or religion, or anything like that, and genuinely be open. A community of men that lift each other up, a community of men that chastise each other, that hold each other accountable to the right standards of what it means to be responsible and means to be a man. A community is what we need. A group of people coming together for a common goal to eradicate the toxic masculinity ideals that we've had to grow up with. That's the common goal. And you're united in terms of making sure that you hold each other accountable. Okay, listen, you remember you told us about, it could be a group of guys that could sell you. Listen, bro, remember you told us about how growing up, this was an area that you didn't really receive love about and you didn't really receive support, and you told yourself you never repeat that. Well, listen, you're repeating it. You're going along that side. Turn around this way. Do this. Support each other. That's the community we need. Not a community of men that constantly trying to outdo each other, but not ever really addressing the deeper roots of issues. Not a community of guys that see each other going astray and don't even try to bring each other back on track. Not a community of guys that are too scared to tell each other off for the wrong things. Love also chastises. Chastising meaning being able to correct behavior with love. Telling people when they're going the wrong way. Encouraging them to be the best self. My question to you today is, do you have a sustainable community? Do you have a healthy community of men and people that are helping you along your journey through manhood and through fatherhood or towards fatherhood? Do you have a community? Do you have a healthy community of men you could say, yes, I can tell them anything. I can go to that group and speak to that community of men I have and receive the right support. I can go to the community of men and be able to pour in positively to the lives of those around me. I was so blown away, taking you back again. I was so blown away and completely impressed when I was at the fundraising event for Men of Purpose. The name in itself is just amazing. Men of Purpose. And as I sat around the table, I was just speaking to a few other guys that have had brunch with Lord Michael Hastings, the founder of the group. And all these conversations that we were having were simply where they are now inspired to be able to do the same for others. They're now inspired to, whilst regardless of their position or their resources they have right now, to get to a place where they can always be readily available to help other men, whether it's through helping them with a phone call to someone else to help, or taking out time to work with them. So these are all areas that we need to keep on addressing. And these conversations I had, these people were genuinely impacted positively because of one man that decided, you know what, let me bring my passion into a community. My passion for men, my passion for seeing men be the best of themselves. And not only did he create a community, he created a community within the community, in the sense that people are now taking initiatives and going out, and while still in part of the Men of Purpose group, they're going out mentoring young people and creating another community of young men that are growing up to be amazing. If you don't have a community of strong men, listen, feel free to reach out to me. Let us build that community. I'm accessible. You can contact me on my personal Instagram handle at Chinedum_Owenaya. I know it's a bit of a tongue twister, but you see my name at Chinedum_Owenaya on Instagram. Reach out to me, make reference to the podcast, say hello, let's talk. We can jump on a Zoom call, we can jump on an Instagram call, whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, my aim with every episode is that even if I'm able to just get through to one man, that's more than enough. Or even we also have female listeners. Even if I'm able to impact the life of one female or one listener, any sort of listener or viewer, that is a job well done. Because the life we're living is not meant to be lived alone. Granted, we come into the world alone, but we're alone in this together. I believe that's a recent line from a musician called Dave. We're in this, we're alone in this together. We are alone in this together. Though we came alone individually as we are, when we come together, we are together in this. I encourage you to, if you don't have that right now, build and foster a community of men that can truly help you to be the best positive version of yourself. With that, I ask you again, who is in your community? Have an amazing week. Please let me know the answer. Let me know what a community means to you, what you think it stands for. Feel free to contact me directly. And please, let's get the word out. If you can share this with someone that can impact, if you can share on your platform, whatever social media platform you have, share this episode, because I genuinely believe that with every conversation we have here, someone else is having that conversation, but may just get what they need from a sentence or even a phrase from this podcast. Be sure to like, share, and comment on the YouTube page, and on the podcast pages, the podcast channels. Please follow us and leave us a positive review, so that way we can gain a better reach, a larger reach and engagement. Thank you. It's Chinedum. Have an amazing time. Till next week. Take care.